那个公文第一个签的。
Make a nice one, very good
Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your kind attention, please? We are about to begin. Please have a seat. Thank you. Sorry. Good morning, everyone. My name is Tiffany. Will be the MC of today. We are now ready to begin the Forum on Taiwan Non-Governmental Organizations International Participation in Africa. Today, the forum is with professionals, 2 panels, 1 roundtable discussions. We have 10 minutes for moderators, 15 minutes for presenters, 10 minutes for discussants. Signs will appear at your front at the time of the last 5 minutes, the last 60 seconds left. First of all, let me introduce Hong Mao Tian, Chairman and President of Institute for National Policy Research. He arrives, and for now, let's enjoy his welcome remarks.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
We have here a large number of very distinguished participants. So I would try not to waste too much time introduce everybody. But one person I need to introduce. That is Chair Professor Isa Baruch from the Kennedy School at Harvard. Without him, there will be no program like today. But I also would like to take note of the very distinguished group of participants who have made contribution to this conference. And also at this particular meeting, we have the honor of having distinguished diplomatic participant from Africa. And the rest of you must be all interested in this type of conference, and also may also have made contribution to NGO work in regard to Africa, or on your own effort, you have done your own contribution to African affairs. I have been always reminded that when one makes speech, the most important thing is to make sure that there are other people who want to talk. So make your statement short. In addition to welcoming you, and obviously throughout the day's programs, we will learn a good deal about this particular initiative and the very distinguished group of people behind this drive. And so I don't need to repeat the content of that. I, however, would like to say something about myself and this INPR, Institute for National Policy Research, and why we are interested in working together with Professor Isa Bellucci, and why we think other two participants and contributors, their effort deserve our collaboration. First of all, let me say a few words about INPR. You are here, many of you probably for the first time. The Institute for National Policy Research is the longest, the oldest independent think tank in the Republic of China in Taiwan. It goes back to 1988, 2 years before former President Lee Teng-hui organized the National Affairs Conference, putting together 200 opinion leaders from all walks of life in the process of participating in the discussions of what would be the best way to organize or reorganize our national government and its relation with society. We know very well that prior to that, Taiwan was known to be a country, or the Republic of China was known to be a country of martial law regime, or one-party dictatorship, which I have written a book coming out of Stanford University. But President Lee Teng-hui, I need to say just briefly, because he transformed the authoritarian system of the Republic of China into now a very reputable democratic system. And in the process, without bloodshed, without systematic or violent confrontation, let alone military coup d'etat. In short, the Republic of China here is a single Asian country that has transformed from autocracy or authoritarianism to democracy very smoothly without serious political, internally political violence. Even Japan, we all know that it's a very well-established democracy now, but remember, they began in the 1920s. And go back to the history, look at what happened in the 1930s. The rise of extreme right-wing militarism that caused the major part of the World War II in Asian theater. And there were a lot of violences and also confrontation. The other Asian countries that have followed since the World War II, every one of them has gone through violence, military coup d'etat, etc., with exceptions of Taiwan. We have our warfare internally. It's verbal warfare that you witness every day on television, but they don't kill people. Government doesn't arrest people, throw them into the jail without due process of law, even though the legal system is yet to be perfect. So here we are. I need to say that in the democratic process, IMPR play a very important role in engaging in non-governmental discussion, organizing conferences, publishing papers, promoting democracies, ranging from constitutional reform to what I would consider to be the most admirable achievement, namely the promotion and then the arrival of a very vibrant civil society. I recall a few years ago during the time of President Ma Ying-jeou when the interaction across the Taiwan Strait was still possible. One very high praise, one leading delegation from China, the Chinese mainland, visiting Taiwan. The leadership was well above the level of Taiwan chairman. I made a short introductory remark in which I call attention to the fact that IMPR is one element of this Taiwan vibrant civil society that we wish someday we can see that happen on the mainland. I'm not talking about propaganda, don't worry about it. In the future, our visiting leader told me, when you, Mr. Ten, when you come to Taiwan, come to China, he told me quietly, please do not openly use the term civil society, because our leader specifically prohibited that. It's very ironic and very interesting. So IMPR, throughout the years, have organized many non-governmental, citizen-oriented discussion that we have devoted considerable energy, financial sources to support all aspects of activities that can be described as related to NGO. Now, secondly, I would like to say about NGO in connection with our government and what we have done. In the year 2000, in case some of you may not have noticed or may not have been born yet, in the year 2000, former President Chen Shui-bian kindly invited me to be the first non-KMT Minister of Foreign Affairs. When I took over the job, I immediately recognized what I suspected to be the truth, namely the Republic of China's government officially have been prohibited from participating in international organizational activities, not just referring to the UN related organization alone, but in a broad range of international organizations we were prohibited. Not only that, I noticed also that our diplomatic allies were considerably limited. We were not able to establish and maintain the numbers of diplomatic allies as we wish, in spite of the fact that I thought, like everybody else in this island, that that was totally unfair. when I was foreign minister, we have 28 diplomatic allies. Today, it's coming down to 17. I hope the number will go up. When I promised to take over the job, and before the inaugurations of President Chen Shui-bian, that was the first rotations of power, by the way, I visited former President Lee in his office, asking for his advice as to what I should do. He said, well, among other things, if possible, please try to increase our diplomatic allies from the number of 28 to 38. I didn't do that. I feel sorry that I failed the job. You know. But when I was in the office, I thought maybe there were other ways that the people here, the 23 million people here, and all of those social, religious, economic, cultural organizations must be able to participate in the international society and to make contribution to other countries which need our support. Hence, I went ahead within a matter of a few months upon my taking over the office. I created an NGO commission. Now it's called the Department of International what? NGO Affairs. Okay. I feel very proud of that because I recognize that with a very vibrant civil society that Taiwan has, and a very nice people that we all have together, many of them very eager to do good deeds to other needy people. I thought the foreign ministry should do its duty of helping the NGO to do their job properly, to provide necessary support in where they are overseas, including logistic support and other which we could do. Today, the NGO numbers have flourished to a point that we have somewhere between 3,000 to 5,000 NGO from this small country actively participating in international society, making contributions, attending conferences, offering various types of support, notably in such field as helping the needy people in this developing country, in the field of healthcare, agriculture, and so on and so forth. In addition to providing some kind of technical support to train people so that they could engage in small and medium-sized business. All of this was done by our people, not the government. The foreign ministry is part of the government. We could only lend our support to them, make their work more effective. One of the areas which at that time, or even before that, we have for a long time done a lot of work, good work, I believe, was Africa. We send large numbers of group and individual to help countries in Africa, particularly among those we have diplomatic ties, to improve their agriculture, to help them to establish a healthcare center, train their doctors, nurses, and provide job training for ordinary people so they can start with a very small business of their own. If necessary, sometimes we also provide some kind of a needed financial support, even though our capacity has been limited. Look at today's world, Africa has changed. If I may say so, changed for the better. There is no longer former European and American colonialism. Okay. Among the 54 countries, however, 53 have been invited, or if I may say so, induced, to join the China-African Forum. Only one country does not participate. I recognize that in today's reality, the People's Republic of China has a much larger economy, a stronger political and diplomatic ambition. They want to expand their territory of influence far beyond Asia into Africa, Latin America, and the Middle East. So they have undertaken under the so-called BRI initiative, large construction project, building highways and roads, airport, seaport, and so on and so forth. I do not want to comment about some of the more negative terminology used frequently by American leadership to describe what in effect China has done that end up with. But for our part, start from the beginning. We did not and had not ability to undertake many huge projects. We also and always put our emphasis at a human level, individual level. We want to see our friends in Africa can improve their life. It doesn't matter to us whether our contribution to the African country will help a particular group of leadership to stay in power forever. That doesn't concern us as a top priority. So whatever aid program we have done is to provide support to the people. So here we are. I am very delighted that Dr. Baluch, Dr. Gao, Chairman Zheng, and others have taken this initiative in an effort to try to promote another effort to use NGO as an instrument to help people in Africa who need to be helped. And they come to us. Our Ambassador Wu Longquan, Human Rights, who previously was in charge of Foreign Ministry's NGO. He worked together with them, and he helped to organize this conference with our staff. We bring together all of you, ladies and gentlemen, who are interested in African affairs, to join there to try to discuss what can be done in the days ahead, so that their good thinking and good effort led by the admirable Professor Baluch. He came from Uganda, I understand. He went to do good deed for his homeland. He was a very successful businessman. and certainly we are recognized by such distinguished university as Harvard to invite him to go over there. Taiwan, in other words, has many experienced people as well as NGO organizations who conceivably will be willing to work with the professor and his colleagues jointly. Hopefully we can come up with very concrete program to move ahead to see what else we can do to help the needy people from certain areas of Africa as a start. I thank you very much, Professor, for coming all the way from Harvard, and thank you all of you who have made this effort. And I hope today, both this morning and in the afternoon, we hopefully will have very fruitful and very concrete discussion about what we can do starting from today. Let's hope for a bright future. And thank you very much for coming.
Thank you, Chairman. Next, I would like to invite Isa Luch, member of the Dean Council of Harvard Kennedy School, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Minister, Your Excellencies. It's really a pleasure for me to be back in Taipei. I come here almost twice every year, the last few years. And this year so far it is my second time. So this has become second home to me. Taiwan is one of those countries that I have had the pleasure of establishing contacts going back to 1980. At that time it was not as clean and as green as it is today. This city has transformed so much, an amazing city. And so Taiwan to me has got two tracks, and those two tracks are represented by these two gentlemen here. One is Dr. Sang, whom I have known for almost the last 20 years with his family. They are here. And that track is the logistics world, the amazing logistics world of Taiwan, which takes me back to the 1980s. I traveled here to establish contacts, and when I was running my business in the Middle East and Africa, logistics in Africa has been my utmost expertise, particularly the 16 countries that are landlocked. Transportation is a huge challenge. They don't have seaports. The roads are not as good, and so we have to rely on a mix of modes of transport. So I came here, and this building, I would actually see it as we were going a lot of times to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and I would say, how beautiful would it be to go into this building and do something. So at that time, I was pursuing relationships, and that developed into fantastic friendships. And this particular building, represented by the chairman of Evergreen, is very special to me, because the friendships that I have of Evergreen in the Middle East, in Europe, in Asia, in the United States, North America in general, has been fantastic. So I have really strong roots with this organization and what it represents. And I read heavily the book that was written by Chairman Chang about his history, and he's one of my heroes in the maritime world. So that took me to, when I sold my business and I continued my contacts with Dr. Sang, to National Ocean Taiwan University, where I have lectured the last 4 or 5 years, and mostly on Africa. The young Taiwanese want to know about the rest of the world, so I offer them Africa at great depth, and that is what I still do until today. So that was one track that was represented by Dr. Sang, and together we worked on bringing the FIATA World Congress to Taiwan. And that had enormous challenges because there was political resistance, there was so many other things. But I was heading the Congress Committee in FIATA. So that special love of Taiwan, coupled with the team that was here. In fact, they knew I was coming, so they said, "We are coming to hear you, Mr. Babu." So where is the team? Dr. Sang, stand up, and Sophie, please. I see who else is here. Sophie, stand up. This is Adelaide. So these are my heroes. Thank you. And the reason I said this is because to get that Congress to run in Taipei was a huge challenge, and they had to travel to Zurich almost 5-6 times every year. And we had those political challenges we had to cross. The mindset, visas, because you don't have many countries represented by the diplomatic corps in the rest of the world. So we had to shuttle to the MOFA office and pass this building. The result of which in 2015, the World Congress of FIATA in Taipei was one of the best ever, attended by 1,300 delegates from almost 110 countries. Now, I was moderating a session, and I could not resist to stop and ask the participants, can you please, if this is your first time to Taipei, could you please stand up? Almost 80% stood up. And so these guys, this is why I call them my heroes, because this well-kept secret of Taiwan, the logistics world, was all of a sudden open to the rest of the world, and they saw what I saw. So this was a huge success. And I'm going to talk a little bit about Dr. Jack Gao, because he represents the second track in the academic world. We have a lot in common. He's a senior fellow at Harvard, the Advanced Leadership Initiative program, and so is Futhi here. So I have two very good colleagues, and he was introduced to me by a colleague who's no longer around, but a specialist on Africa, a true son of Africa, Kalestas Juma, Professor Kalestas Juma, who was from Kenya, and really heavy into agribusiness, bioengineering, science and technology. And so as Jack talked with him about his thoughts on Africa, he said, no, there is somebody else you ought to meet, and who also has one thing in common. You are from Taiwan, and I know that he is very, very connected to Taiwan. He loves Taiwanese food, and he loves to go there. You ought to meet him. And that's where we connected, and I listened to him. I listened to Professor Juma. The next thing is I went on my own and researched. What is this about? This is about looking at the miracle of Taiwan, that moved the economy from a mushroom economy in the 60s to what it is today. And I asked a lot of my friends in Africa, I said, what do you think? They said, actually, it sounds fantastic, because the choice we have today is fairly authoritarian. We need people like this. Freedom of thought, freedom of thinking, freedom of action. I think the Taiwanese will do something for us. We can exchange ideas, and nothing knowledge-based. There is nothing that is comparable to knowledge-based. So that's how I encouraged our friend here, Dr. Gao that, well, I think I will be part of your dream. And so this meeting is really part of that. I'm sure we will be spending more time to discuss this in the session that is going to come later on. So the story of Taiwan has two tracks as far as I'm concerned. One is the amazing logistics, which until today I'm connected with. And the second is the miracle of Taiwan. What is that miracle? I had no idea, and so do many Taiwanese. They don't know that it existed. And I think we are here to unveil this, and it's an exportable item. I did not know that. I've read a lot, but that is something that can be exported. Exported to match, as Mr. Minister, you have outlined. It's not only about the power of money, it's about the power of thoughts. It's about the power of learning. How do you keep on learning? You have gone through this transformation. And I think that is what we are going to be discussing today. Take this forward. I want to thank you, the organizers. I know that it's taken a lot of work, a lot of efforts, and those of us who have traveled fully from across, and there are so many. In fact, one of our next meetings, we have a number of Africans that are prepared to come and spend time and energy to fine-tune this project and move it forward. So, I want to thank you. This is a very exciting time for us, and I appreciate the energy. All that I do is really in memory of my dear friend who passed away, who believed that Taiwan has something to offer to the rest of the world. It's time. This secret is no longer kept a secret. Please let it out. Thank you very much.